The war didn't announce itself with honor or strategy. It arrived like a fracture in reality. One moment, Captain Alina Carter was moving through a frozen valley in Eastern Europe, boots crunching over shattered ice, her unit advancing in tight formation. The next moment, everything broke. A distant whistling sound. Not loud at first. Not alarming. Just wrong. Then the sky tore open. The explosion hit the convoy with a force that lifted armored vehicles like toys. Snow, fire, and metal erupted into the air in a violent spiral. Alina was thrown sideways, slamming hard into the frozen ground. Her helmet cracked against debris. Her vision blurred instantly. For a few seconds, she couldn't hear anything. No commands. No radio chatter. No engine roar. Just a high, ringing silence like the world had been unplugged. She blinked through dust and smoke. "Bravo team, report." Her voice cut through the static on her comms. Only noise answered her. She pushed herself up slowly, coughing, eyes scanning through the smoke-filled battlefield. What she saw didn't make sense at first. Burning wreckage. Overturned vehicles. Motionless figures scattered across the snow. No return fire. No movement. Just destruction. "Alina, come in." Her radio crackled once, faint, broken. Then died again. She tapped it hard. "Command, this is Captain Carter. Do you copy? I repeat, do you copy?" Nothing. She tried switching channels. Emergency frequency. Secondary channel, battalion net. All dead. The silence became heavier than the explosion. That's when it hit her. This wasn't just a failed mission. This was a collapse. She slowly stood up, scanning the battlefield again, forcing her mind to stay operational even as shock tried to creep in. "Focus," she whispered to herself. "Assess." Her training kicked in like muscle memory. Step 1, locate survivors. She moved carefully between wrecked armored vehicles, stepping over twisted metal and burning fragments. The cold air burned her lungs, but adrenaline kept her moving. "Jackson, Rivera, anyone respond?" Only the wind answered. Then she saw it. A flipped transport truck, half buried in snow. She rushed forward. Come on, come on." She grabbed the door handle and pulled. It came off in her hand. Inside, empty. No sign of life. Her breathing got heavier, but she forced it down. Stay focused. She checked the surroundings again. That's when her HUD device blinked once. Then again. A red warning. Network loss DTCTD. She frowned. That wasn't normal. Not even in heavy combat. She tapped it. Nothing refreshed. Then another alert appeared. This one made her stomach tighten. Unit status update, unknown. She froze. Unknown. That wasn't a battlefield status. That was administrative deletion. A system glitch maybe, or something worse. She reached for her radio again. "Command, this is Carter. Status report requested immediately. I am still operational." Static. Then, a broken voice fragment. "All units fall back, repeat, full withdrawal." Then silence again. Her grip tightened. A full withdrawal. Without evac. Without confirmation. That didn't happen in coordinated operations. Something had gone very wrong at command level. She looked around again. And this time, she noticed something she missed before. No friendly markers. No drone overwatch. No signal pings. It was as if the entire battlefield had been wiped clean of her side. A chill ran through her, not from the cold, but from realization. She wasn't just isolated. She was off-grid completely. A sudden crack echoed in the distance. Alina dropped instantly behind a broken armored carrier. Snow exploded where she had been standing seconds ago. Incoming fire. But not random. Controlled. Targeted. She held her breath and listened. Footsteps. Multiple. Slow. Methodical. Enemy patrol. Close. Too close. She slowly reached for her sidearm, sliding it free with controlled silence. Her mind calculated instantly. Distance, less than 40 meters. Cover, limited. Ammo, low. Escape route, none visible. She whispered under her breath. Okay, so it's real now. The footsteps got louder. Snow crunching. Metal gear shifting. Voices in Russian, faint but confident. They didn't know she was here yet. That was her only advantage. She peeked slightly. 3 soldiers. Standard patrol. Scanning wreckage. Not expecting survivors. Alina adjusted her breathing. Slow. Controlled. Every movement now had to be perfect. One mistake meant death. She watched them pass the wrecked carrier. 2 steps more, then 3. Now. She moved. Not fast. Not reckless. Precise like a blade, sliding through silence. She grabbed the first soldier from behind, covering his mouth before he could react, twisting sharply. A clean, silent takedown. He collapsed into the snow without a sound. The second soldier turned instantly. Too late. Alina was already behind him. A sharp strike, controlled force, down. The third soldier reached for his radio. Alina froze for half a second. Then threw a metal fragment from the wreckage. It hit his helmet with a sharp crack. He stumbled. That was enough. She closed the distance and finished it. Silence returned again. Only this time, it felt different. Heavier. Realer. She stood in the snow, breathing hard now, scanning the surroundings. 3 enemies down. No alarms yet. No alert. But she knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. She wiped snow from her gloves and checked her weapon again. Then she looked at the horizon. Black smoke rising in the distance. Somewhere out there, more enemies. More patrols. And no friendly forces left to rely on. A thought formed in her mind. Not fear. Not panic. Clarity. I'm not lost, she whispered. I've just been cut off. She turned toward the ruins ahead and started walking deeper into the war zone. Alone, but not broken, and unaware that the enemy had just started noticing something terrifying. Someone was still active in the dead zone, and she was not trying to survive. She was adapting. The wind had changed. It wasn't just cold anymore. It felt alive, like it carried warnings through the ruins of the battlefield. Captain Alina Carter moved through broken terrain without hesitation now. The hesitation had died back in the convoy wreckage. What remained was something sharper. Awareness. Instinct. Survival. Every step she took in the snow was measured. Not fast, not slow, just controlled. Like she was no longer reacting to the war, she was reading it. Behind her, the 3 soldiers lay hidden under drifting snow. No alarms had been raised yet. No flares, no immediate response. But Alina knew better. Silence in war wasn't peace. It was delay. And delay always ended in pursuit. She adjusted her weapon strap and moved into the ruins of a collapsed industrial structure. The walls were half gone, twisted metal beams sticking out like broken bones of a dead machine. Inside it was darker, safer, but not safe. She crouched behind a concrete slab and finally allowed herself a single breath longer than usual. Then she checked her radio again. Nothing. Still dead. No command. No allies. No extraction window. Just static. She whispered under her breath. Okay, I'm really alone. For a moment, the weight of it pressed in. Not fear exactly. Something heavier. Reality. Then, a sound cut through the wind. Not footsteps. A drone. Alina froze instantly. She tilted her head slightly, listening. A faint mechanical buzz. Above the ruins. Scanning. She didn't move. The drone passed slowly overhead, its red light sweeping across broken structures. Searching. Not randomly. Systematically. Alina slowly lowered herself behind cover, barely breathing. Her mind worked fast. They're scanning zones, not general patrols. That meant something had changed. They weren't guessing anymore. They were tracking. And then she heard it. A radio burst from the drone's linked ground unit. Possible survivor confirmed in Sector 7. Engage search protocol Sigma. Her eyes narrowed. Sigma protocol. That wasn't standard patrol behavior. That was targeted hunting. They knew. Or at least they suspected. The drone passed. Silence returned. But it wasn't comforting anymore. It was tightening. Like a rope slowly closing around her position. Alina exhaled slowly. "All right," she muttered, "so I'm not invisible anymore." She stood again. And started moving faster. The net tightens. Within hours, the battlefield changed. Not visually, but structurally. Patrol routes shifted. Drones lowered altitude. Search patterns tightened like closing jaws. Alina noticed it immediately. Every route she used before now had increased activity. Every open space now had overlapping surveillance. They were narrowing her movement. She crouched behind a collapsed wall, observing two patrol groups intersecting ahead. This wasn't random anymore. This was coordination. "They're organizing a net," she whispered. Her eyes scanned the terrain. North blocked. East heavily patrolled. West unstable terrain. South. A long stretch of ruins leading toward an old communications relay tower. Half destroyed, but maybe still functional. Her only possible exit point. But it was also deep inside enemy-controlled territory. A trap if she wasn't careful. A death sentence if she was wrong. Alina studied it for a long moment. Then made her decision. South. Always forward. Because standing still meant capture. And capture meant the end. First encounter of the hunt. She moved through the ruins like a shadow. Avoiding open lines of sight. Using broken structures for cover. Counting patrol intervals. Then, she stopped. Something was wrong. Too quiet. Not natural quiet. Engine quiet. She slowly lowered herself behind a collapsed vehicle. Then she saw them. 6 soldiers. But not regular patrol. Heavier gear. Tactical formation. And a drone hovering just above them. Alina narrowed her eyes. "Search unit," she whispered. They weren't patrolling. They were hunting. One of them raised his hand. The group stopped instantly. The drone lowered slightly, scanning the area ahead. And then, it beeped. Alina froze. Target lock indicator. She had been detected. "Contact confirmed," a voice said through their comms. "Engage immediately." Everything changed instantly. The soldiers spread out. Vast. Professional. Alina didn't wait. She moved. A sprint into broken cover as bullets tore into the snow where she had been seconds ago. Explosions of ice and debris erupted behind her. She ran through collapsing structures, climbing over metal wreckage as the drone tracked her movement from above. "Target is mobile," the radio shouted. Alina's breath was sharp now. Controlled panic turning into precision. She turned sharply into a narrow corridor between ruins. A dead zone for the drone. For a moment, just a moment, she stopped. Listened. Footsteps behind her. Closing. Vast. She checked her weapon. Low ammo. Very low. Then she did something unexpected. She didn't run further. She waited. Inside the narrow passage, she positioned herself against the wall, controlled her breathing. And as the first soldier entered, she struck. 1. Down. The second stepped in. She disarmed him mid-motion. Twist. Impact. Down. The third tried to retreat. Too late. Alina grabbed him, used his momentum, and threw him into the corridor wall with brutal precision. The remaining soldiers hesitated outside. They had lost visual. "Where is she?" one shouted. Silence answered. And then, nothing. Because Alina had already moved again. Gone before they could reorganize. The first fear in the enemy lines. Back at the command relay, intercepted communications began to change tone. At first, confidence. Then confusion. Then concern. Then something new. Unit Sigma teams report heavy losses in close contact encounters. Target demonstrates advanced evasion capability. Recommend escalation. Alina didn't hear any of it. She was already deeper in the ruins, breathing heavier now, but still moving. Her arm was bleeding slightly. Minor injury. Ignored. Pain was information, not limitation. She looked ahead. The distant silhouette of the relay tower was faint, but visible through the storm. Her destination. But something inside her told her the worst part wasn't ahead. It was behind. Because now, they weren't just searching. They were learning. Adapting. And that meant the next encounter wouldn't be like the last. Alina tightened her grip on her weapon and whispered into the wind. Come on then. The war had started to notice her, and it was preparing to respond. The battlefield was no longer random. It had become intelligent. Not in a human way, but in a calculated, mechanical way that made everything feel tighter, smaller, inescapable. Captain Alina Carter felt it before she saw it. The wind carried less freedom now. More pressure. Like the air itself had been assigned a mission. She moved through a narrow line of shattered buildings, her boots silent against the snow. Every reflection in broken glass, every shadow between ruins, she scanned them automatically. Not because she was scared, because she was being studied. Behind enemy lines, something new had started. A pattern had formed, and Alina was the center of it. The first signs of the Ghost Protocol. Inside a forward Russian command relay, screens flickered with fragmented battlefield data. A map of the region glowed, red in multiple sectors. And one moving point kept appearing, then disappearing. A commander leaned forward. That's her again. A technician nodded. She's not staying in one grid long enough for full tracking. Another voice cut in. That's impossible. No single operator moves like that. But the data didn't lie. Every time they closed in, she vanished. Every time they adjusted patrol routes, she changed direction. Every time they deployed drones, they came back with nothing but broken visual traces. One officer muttered, "She's reading us, not the battlefield." That sentence changed everything. Because it meant she wasn't just surviving. She was adapting to their system faster than they could adapt to her. A new order was issued. Cold. Final. Activate Ghost Protocol. The net becomes a weapon. The change was immediate. Drones lowered altitude. Not for scanning, but for prediction. Patrol units stopped moving randomly. They began moving in synchronized patterns. Algorithms now calculated Alina's likely path based on her past movements. The battlefield stopped being a battlefield. It became a grid. A trap. And Alina was inside it. Alina notices the shift. She stopped near a collapsed railway overpass. Something felt wrong. Too structured. Too controlled. 3 patrol routes intersected ahead, perfectly aligned like a closing triangle. She narrowed her eyes. "They're not searching," she whispered. "They're predicting." She crouched behind rusted steel beams, observing. A drone hovered above, but not randomly. It paused, adjusted, then moved away, like it had decided she wasn't there. But she knew better. "They're testing my movement pattern," she said quietly. That realization hit harder than any bullet. Because now the enemy wasn't reacting to her. They were anticipating her. And anticipation was dangerous. First encounter with ghost units. A sudden transmission crackled through enemy comms nearby. Elena caught fragments while staying hidden. Ghost units deployed, priority target confirmation, kill or capture. She froze. Ghost units. That wasn't standard infantry. That was something else. Specialized trackers. Human hunters designed for one purpose. Find anomalies in the battlefield. Find her. And within minutes, she saw them. 6 figures moving differently from regular soldiers. No noise. No wasted motion. Weapons calibrated for precision tracking. One of them paused suddenly. Head tilted slightly. Like he was listening to something invisible. Elena held her breath. He turned slowly toward her direction. Not seeing her, but feeling something wrong. The air tightened. And then, he raised his hand. Signal. Instantly, the unit split. Encirclement formation. Vast. Controlled. Elena's heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. This was different now. This wasn't patrol behavior. This was a hunt. The first collapse of calm. Elena moved first. Not because she panicked, but because waiting meant being trapped. She slipped through broken concrete shadows as the ghost unit tightened its formation. A drone passed overhead. This time lower. Closer. Elena pressed against a wall, watching its scanning beam sweep past. It paused. Longer than before. Then, a soft mechanical tone. Locking. Target anomaly detected. A voice echoed faintly through their comms. That was enough. Elena ran. And instantly, everything exploded into motion. The ghost unit reacted like a single organism. No shouting. No confusion. Just instant pursuit. Bullets sliced through metal beams as Elena sprinted through collapsing ruins. She leapt over debris, rolled under broken girders, used narrow passages only she could fit through. But the ghost unit didn't slow. They adapted mid-chase. One cut off her exit. Another climbed elevated ground. A third deployed a scanning flare. The battlefield lit red. And Elena was exposed for half a second. That was enough. Gunfire erupted. She dove behind a destroyed transport shell as rounds ripped through metal inches from her head. Her breathing sharpened. "Okay," she muttered. "They're faster now." The shift in her survival. She checked her ammo. Low. Too low. Her mind worked fast. Escape routes recalculated instantly. But every direction was closing. This wasn't random anymore. It was a tightening spiral. She realized something critical. They weren't chasing her anymore. They were herding her. Like prey. That thought changed something inside her. Not fear. Not panic. Focus sharpened into something colder. If they were building a trap, then she had to break the pattern. The countermove. Elena suddenly changed direction. Not toward escape. Toward the closest ghost unit. A decision that defied survival logic. She moved through a narrow corridor between broken walls, cutting directly into their formation. The first ghost soldier reacted too late. Elena struck, Fast, precise, disabling him before he could call out. The second turned. She used his momentum against him. Down. The third raised his weapon. Elena fired once. Controlled. Silent. The formation broke for the first time. Confusion rippled through the unit. That moment mattered. Because ghost units were not used to failure. And failure created hesitation. Elena used that hesitation to disappear again into the ruins. Enemy command reaction. At command level, alarms escalated. "This is not normal resistance," one officer said sharply. "She's dismantling ghost units in direct contact." Another leaned forward. "That's impossible. They're trained for—" "She's not fighting like a soldier," the commander interrupted. "She's fighting like she understands the system." Silence. Then a new order. Upgrade target classification. Treat as adaptive threat level Omega. Elena Carter was no longer a missing soldier. No longer a survivor. She had become something else entirely. A destabilizing variable in a controlled war environment. A ghost that didn't just evade capture. She learned from it. The tower appears again. Through the storm, Elena finally saw it. The relay tower. Damaged. Surrounded by enemy movement. But still standing. Her only exit. Her only signal. Her only chance. But now she knew. Reaching it wouldn't be the hard part. Holding it would be. And behind her, she could already hear them regrouping. Faster now. Smarter now. Closer now. Elena tightened her grip on her weapon. And whispered, "All right, let's finish this." The storm had gotten worse. Not just weather, pressure. Snow didn't fall anymore. It moved sideways, whipped through ruins like something alive, like the battlefield itself was trying to erase everything inside it. And at the center of it all, Captain Elena Carter stood still for one brief moment. The relay tower rose ahead like a broken spine against the sky. Half collapsed. Burned at the edges. Still standing, but barely. It wasn't just a structure anymore. It was a signal. A heartbeat in a dead zone. And every enemy unit in the region was moving toward it. Because now they knew. She wasn't escaping. She was going for the one thing that could end it. Elena checked her weapon one last time. Low ammo. No backup. No second chance. Just timing. "All right," she whispered into the wind. "Last move." Then she stepped forward. The approach, walking into the net. The perimeter around the tower was no longer loose. It was layered. 3 rings of defense. Outer patrols. Mid-range sniper coverage. Inner drone surveillance. And now, ghost units embedded within all 3. This wasn't protection anymore. It was containment. Elena moved through the outer ring first. Slow. Controlled. Using broken terrain as cover. Every step calculated. Every pause intentional. Above her, drones circled like patient predators. One of them slowed. Hovered. Then drifted away. She exhaled quietly. "They're waiting for me to panic," she thought. But panic was gone. Only structure remained. She slipped past the first patrol without contact. Second line was harder. 2 soldiers standing near a collapsed armored vehicle. Talking. Relaxed. Elena didn't hesitate. She used the noise of the wind. Moved behind them. 2 precise strikes. Down. No sound raised. No alert triggered. Yet. But she knew. That wouldn't last. Because the system was watching everything now. The moment everything tightens. Inside the command network, alarms spiked. Outer perimeter breach confirmed. Movement pattern matches target signature. A commander leaned forward. "She's inside the outer ring." Another responded immediately. Activate full containment. No further gaps. Drones shifted instantly. Patrol routes collapsed inward. The net tightened. Alina felt it immediately. The battlefield changed again. The air felt heavier. She stopped near a ruined wall and looked up. A drone hovered directly above. Not searching. Watching. Now it's personal, she whispered. And then, the drone flashed red. Lock confirmed. The storm breaks. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions at once. The containment ring collapsed inward like a closing fist. Alina ran. Not away. Through it. Bullets tore into metal and snow as she sprinted between collapsing cover points. Explosions hit behind her. The ground shook. A ghost unit stepped into her path ahead. Too slow. She moved past him, disarmed him mid-motion, and kept going. Another tried to flank. She didn't stop. Just a single controlled shot. The silence of her movement became more dangerous than the chaos around her. But the enemy adapted faster now. Snipers adjusted elevation. Drones dropped lower. Escape angles vanished one by one. Alina reached the base of the relay tower. The final barrier stood in front of her. A sealed metal entry point. Locked. Protected. Reinforced. And above it all, the enemy was converging. Vast. Breach team moving in. Voices echoed through enemy comms. She didn't wait. She planted a charge. A small one. Precise. Then stepped back. Boom. The door exploded inward. Smoke poured out. And Alina entered. Inside the tower, the final stand begins. The interior was dark. Half-powered systems flickered. Emergency lights pulsed weakly along broken walls. She moved quickly through the corridor. Her boots echoed now. No need for silence anymore. They knew where she was. Every second mattered. She reached the control room, the heart of the relay, and immediately started the system boot sequence. A screen flickered. Then another. Signal array, offline. She slammed a hand onto the console. Come on, come on. Outside. Gunfire intensified. The ghost units had reached the tower. First impact hit the outer structure. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alina worked faster. Manual override. Emergency frequency activation. She bypassed damaged systems one by one. Her hands were steady, but fast. A second explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered. Then, a tone. Signal response. Her eyes widened slightly. U.S. relay link detected. She activated it instantly. A distress signal shot upward through static-filled airwaves. Coordinates locked. Transmission active. For the first time in days. Someone heard her. The enemy breaks in. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Not regular troops. Ghost units. They had arrived. The door to the control room shook violently. Metal bending. Alina stood in front of the console. She didn't step back. She didn't hide. She stayed. Because now the mission had changed. It wasn't escape anymore. It was holding long enough for the signal to survive. The door burst open. Smoke filled the room. Ghost units entered. Silent. Controlled. Weapons raised. Alina slowly turned. One against many. No cover. No retreat. Just timing. A standoff. A commander voice came through their comms. Stand down, you are surrounded. Alina didn't respond immediately. She looked at the blinking signal screen. Transmission still active. Still going out. Then she smiled faintly. Not fear. Not surrender. Understanding. I'm already done here, she said quietly. The final push. The ghost unit moved forward. Alina triggered a secondary charge hidden inside the console structure. A delayed pulse detonator. She had planned it the moment she entered. 1 second. 2. 3. The system began to overload. Alarms screamed through the tower. Outside, distant rotor sounds suddenly appeared. Then more. Then closer. Very close. The enemy hesitated. A new sound entered the battlefield. Aircraft. U.S. extraction forces. The sky outside lit up. Missiles struck enemy positions around the tower perimeter. Chaos flipped instantly. The ghost units inside paused. For the first time, they were the ones trapped. Alina stepped back from the console as the signal locked fully. Transmission complete. She had done it. The extraction beacon was live. A massive explosion outside rocked the tower again. Enemy forces began to retreat under aerial pressure. Inside the control room, Alina stood alone in smoke and flickering light. Injured. Exhausted. But still standing. The extraction. Minutes later, a breach team entered the tower under cover fire. Everything was collapsing around them. They moved fast through debris and smoke. And then they saw her, standing near the console. Weapon lowered. Breathing heavy. Still alert. One soldier called out. Captain Carter. She turned slowly. The extraction team stopped for half a second. The battlefield behind them was chaos. Burning ruins. Retreating enemy forces. Drones falling from the sky. And in the middle of it all, one woman who had survived it alone. A commander stepped forward. How did you hold this position by yourself? Alina looked past him. At the burning horizon. At the broken warzone she had walked through. Then she answered quietly. I wasn't holding it. I was just refusing to disappear. Silence. Then the evacuation signal came. And as she was guided out of the tower, the battlefield behind her continued burning. But the story had already changed. Because one soldier had rewritten the meaning of survival.